Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we'll be focusing on what you just heard. We've got two gentlemen joining us here. We've got Sanni Umar, former spokesperson, PDP Presidential Campaign Council, and then we'll also go to Mr. Ayo Fadaka, who is a former Zonal Secretary, Southwest of the PDP. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming.
Morning.
Well, it appears as though it's pretty straightforward within the party, but sometimes, I know they've said several times, what appears this way doesn't necessarily come out that way, especially when it has to do in Nigerian politics. It's always different when it's being practiced. But yes, they cited violation of Section 51 of the party constitution as basis for suspending some of those persons. But what about the implications of this suspension? Isn't it capable of, who knows, because you have people who would certainly not be happy. The party, I know you may say they're used to this kind of matters. Is it going to be a similar scenario this time?
Let me start by saying that, of course, what the party actually enumerated is true, that you cannot take the party to court. You have to exhaust the internal mechanisms within the party before you can go to court. It is not that you cannot go to court, but you have to exhaust the internal mechanism.
So that's a condition precedent.
A condition precedent to go into court. Because every Nigerian is entitled to go to court, provided that his right has been infringed upon. So if you cannot get justice within the party, of course you have to explore outside the party to get justice. However, what is very worrisome with this decision is that if you perform anything which is wrong, any organ of the party can take steps to discipline you for going to court. But in this case, these people have not been disciplined. So nobody has instituted any committee, disciplinary committee against them. There is no report whatsoever to show that they have actually done this, and that by doing this, the party has found them culpable or guilty, and so they will punitive measure has been taken against them, or any report to show that there is a violation. When you do something, it is, of course, but it is not automatic. It is not an automatic thing that anybody can use. There must be something on ground that can be used to justify that thing. So there was nothing to be used. Now, a screening committee has limitations. They cannot arbitrarily do whatever they like.
So is this an arbitrary action?
This is an arbitrary action because the screening committee is not supposed to be the accuser, judge, and executioner. They cannot accuse them of going to court and then be the ones to, and then disqualify them. Somebody else must have accused them. Then the screening committee will now say, okay, you see there is a report, or there is a petition, or there is something against you.
So, Mr. Fadaka, some of these persons who were suspended also had to do with because some of those positions were micro-zoned to your state, of which you have one or two information. So could it be that the action taken was also, they didn't follow the processes, as Mr. Sanni has said?
Well, I think the essence of a screening committee is to take absolute look about the candidates that come before it. Look at their credentials, look at their suitability for such positions in some extreme cases. And I think what that committee simply did was to take a good look at those that came before them. I think the committee may have, just like I said, overreached itself by that disqualification. But then, for those of us that are members of the party, we all know that the moment you take the party to court on any issue and you want to appear before the committee or the party, it is likely to be used against you. And so I don't consider what has happened now as being too strange.
So you think the end justifies the means?
Yeah, because in the very first instance, like the man that spoke on TV, I think that was the chairman of the screening committee, said they went to court with the intention to ensure that the committee does not hold, the convention does not hold. If you have taken the decision to go to court, to stop, wanting to stop a convention from holding. Why do you want to rip from the entire process? I don't think that is gentlemanly. Sincerely.
I'm a little befuddled. Because the individuals here, I mean, that the party has disqualified, they aren't from, they aren't ward level. They are not, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
They're not small fries.
Okay.
One of them is seeking office into the office of the National Secretary, one National Publicity Secretary, and another Deputy National Chairman South. So one would assume, Mr. Sanni, that at least they would have taken some steps before it gets to the point of saying, we're going to go to court. So is it possible, I'm just speculating now, is it possible that maybe they took some steps, but they just didn't have any response at all, and then they took an action?
Well, the issue is not even as the committee has actually stated. The issue had to do with the progress and sustainability of the party. What they went to court for is not to stop the convention, but it is to ensure that the chairman should be allowed to complete his tenure, that is, which is secondus, and he should supervise the convention. That is in line with Section 35 of our Constitution. The chairman is the leader of the party, he is the chairman of the party, and he is the one to take the party to national convention. So, and he has a tenure, and his tenure expires on the 10th of December 2021. So if you reshift the convention backwards to this is the first time the convention has ever been shifted. The convention always takes place at the expiration of the tenure of the National Working Committee. However, this one was shifted backwards, and the essence is to exclude the chairman from participation, using the courts to stop him from presiding over the matter, then ensure that the convention takes place in his absence, and so he will not be the one to chair it. Now, having said that,
but on that issue, my apologies, on the issue that you just mentioned now, there is isn't that explaining essentially that, look, I mean, you said whatever they did was in line with a particular section of your party. Yeah. Now, so at what point then are they wrong?
No, I didn't. I mean, those people who went to court.
Yeah.
I'm saying what they did was in line. So they did not do any wrong. What?
By going to court.
By going to court, they didn't do any wrong. What they wanted to whip the party back to line, so that the party will do the right thing. And because they did that, the general idea is that since the major stakeholder, okay, let me say, since the powers that are controlling the party now do not want anything to do with secondus, so they have now been found in their court of this thing guilty for merely going there to say, okay, secondus should be allowed to complete his tenure.
Isn't that Mr. Fadaka saying that essentially the whole issues around the chairmanship of the party over the past few months is we've just been papering over cracks, not dealing with the real issues? Otherwise, well, many people will say, okay, there's a lot of infighting in PDP and there's a lot of pretending going on.
Well, within every political party, there are very many tendencies competing against each other. And the PDP is currently going through one of such crises now. And what happens to the party is that everybody brings their input in to manage the party, to make sure that the party does not come into a crisis. Of course, like you said, Chairman Uche Secondo's tenure should ordinarily end at the end of this month. And therefore, what we are even doing now...
At the end of the year.
At the end of... No, well, it's the end of the year.
It's on the 10th of December.
Okay, should be ending...
That's officially.
Officially, yes.
I thought there was a meeting that held, was it of the Board of Trustees, that they moved something
Yes,
forward?
The fact that they moved it forward is indeed an abnormality. We shouldn't be going to the convention now at this material point in time. But be that as it may, we are all politicians. There must be management must be brought into every situation that arises in the party to ensure that the party does not come into an accident. This development has since come. when it began from Rivers State, from the ward of the national chairman. From there, it got onto the national stage, and this crisis has since come. And as real party men, I think the duty of every one of us now is that we should begin to do whatever we can do to ensure that our party remains a fighting force as we move into the 2023 presidential election. And as a party man, I'm not too comfortable with what I see that is happening now. I'm not too comfortable at all. We have to confront an APC that is well-oiled, and we are dragging ourselves into one crisis or the other.
Is there any organ of the party that disagrees with what has happened?
Well, sometimes disagreements in political parties, you do not see it until it becomes a major crisis, until it develops into a major schism. That is when you know that disagreements are in the party. There is a lot of undercurrent going on now. As we are now, new people are being recruited to run our party for the next 4 years. And what is essential is that your recruitment policy must be sincere. I am not sure that there's a lot of sincerity in the recruitment policies that we see so far now. We are a political party that needs a new leadership, and some considerations that should not be there are being used to recruit people to run our party. Sometimes these kind of considerations are mundane, absolutely mundane. People always say that when you should bring a square peg into a square hole. People that are around are being put into square holes now. And you begin to think, a party that is in the opposition that should be thinking about how to stand from where it is today and should be thinking about how to contend so seriously for power in 2023 is not so being futuristic in his approach to that year, then I think there's fire on the mountain.
All right, let's get Kaide in. We've got some questions for you. Kaide.
Oh, yes, Chamberlain. Mr. Umar, you referenced that, just as Governor Finter referenced as well, that, the main reason, or at least part of the reasons they were disqualified, although one of them says he was not disqualified, but part of the reasons they were disqualified was because they took the party to court. And you tried to clarify that it was not to stop the convention, but to sort of get interpretation of the Constitution in support of Mr. Secondus. Do you think that this is some form of victimization because they pitched their tent with Mr. Secondus and tried to at least stop his removal? So, do you think that?
Well, not only that, there are so many undercurrents that ordinarily we normally don't want to discuss them on national television, but in this particular case, there is the need for us to bring these things out. Now, Mr. Eddie Olafeso was a former vice chairman, national vice chairman, Southwest. So he has held that position, and he was also a gubernatorial aspirant in Ondo State. And he is contesting for the position of publicity secretary. Now, he contested to go back to his own former position. He lost with 13 votes. There was, two sides to a coin. Governor Makinde, Sheyi Makinde, was supporting the current one, the one who is on, and then Governor Fayoshe was supporting Eddie Olafeso. So you can see that Olafeso is now on the wrong side of the divide, and so nobody will wish him that he should. Principally, Governor Sheyi Makinde will not wish that he moves again. If he has defeated him here, he doesn't want him to go to national again and still wield the same power that he has lost over here. So there are so many undercurrents that are currently going on. And I don't even know why...
But isn't it the fact that they went to court?
Well, let me even succinctly put it. Eddie Olafeso and some people went to court, but Oladipo didn't go to court. Professor Oladipo didn't go to court.
That would be curious. If Oladipo didn't go to court and decided he went to court.
Yeah, they didn't go to court.
Taking it from what he was saying, I contested in that same series of election where Dr. Idiola Faisal lost with 13 votes. I contested again to become the zonal publicity secretary of the party at the Southwest Zone. Of course, Eddie lost by
13 votes.
I lost by 9 votes. And that, what that easily says is that in the Southwest, there is a balance of power, balance of influence within the party. And as it is now, it's obvious that the side that lost in that election, is still down. You know?
But
that is my side.
Did you go to court?
No, I didn't go to court.
So
because
there
there's
was an
no reason for me to go to court.
He was not going to court because he lost. They didn't also go to court because they lost. They went to court because the party was derailing from its constitutional mandate. Now, the National Working Committee has a right by our constitution to contest a second time.
Yeah.
They have an 8-year distance, so you cannot limit them by fiat.
Okay, but when they went to courts, for instance, and some of them were also, I think Mr. Lafayette was also vying for the position of the National Publicity Secretary of the party.
Yeah.
So isn't that the same principle where the committee said, look, you want to benefit from both sides. So if you're angry about the whole thing, why then vie for that position? Meaning if it goes your way, you still get that position. So isn't that tantamount to wanting to benefit from both sides?
Well, I don't think benefiting on both sides is the outcome of the court decision.
That would be double standard.
No, the outcome of the court decision has no direct benefit to him. Because it is only trying to say, okay, please allow the party to follow the due process. A mandate has been given to a certain...
I get that point. So if you're angry with that procedure,
yes,
and you are not exactly happy with how it has played out,
yeah,
why still? Because the same procedure brought about the next procedure.
Yes.
So you're not happy with one, which has produced this next one, and so you still come back.
Yeah,
of
course, as a politician, you are entitled to benefit. It is not about the screening committee. It is about the party, the delegates who are going to vote. If the delegates believe that your action does not go well with the party, they will vote you out.
You share the same view?
Well, I really do to a certain extent. One, in this party, we all have rights and privileges. It's your right to decide to want to contest for any election, and it's the right of the people to either vote for you or not vote for you. But I think we should be careful the way we run our party. Honestly, my concern as a party man is how well we are going to place this party within the next few months and the next few years. Because many of us are thinking of a Nigeria that will be properly governed. Honestly, permit me to digress a little. The past 6 or 7 years in the life of our nation has been very horrible. Horrible to the extent that life is no longer safe. People die every day in today's Nigeria. And as a party in the opposition, I think what should be our preoccupation at a time like this is not to revel in petty politicking, but to begin to take actions that will situate our party properly with the people who are looking for, who are looking for another party they will probably vote for and change the governance of this country. For me, as a person, I think we should put pettiness aside and begin to see that, do we desire where our party stands today? Do we want to remain in our current state, contending for power at every election and not winning it? For instance, the position that Idiola Faisal wanted to contest for is the position of the salesman, of the marketing officer of the party. The position of the publicity secretary of the party at the national level, I too contended in my state, but I was dropped. And I think the reason why I was lost is because probably because I did not support a particular gubernatorial aspirant. during the primary election, that was enough for me to be on the wrong side of the party. And as far as I'm concerned, that was pettiness, outright pettiness. You know, and I think our party, what do we desire our party to be now? You see, in today's politics, there are a number of politicians that are very mobile. Those ones are not committed to any party. For those of us that have been members of the People's Democratic Party all along, we are pained to see the direction our party is heading. And we think that it is time for the party to begin to re-examine itself.
All right. Kaide.
Quickly, Mr. Fadaka, I mean, on the back of what you just said, do you then trust in that internal party mechanism that has been touted time and again? The fact that, I mean, you just referenced you losing out because you probably didn't support a certain gubernatorial candidate. So if the party structure, as it were, is being influenced by strong men like that person and others, do you as a person, by extension others, do you trust in the party, internal party mechanism to do right by you and ensure justice is done?
Yes, it's never too late. Honestly, we may be hanging dangerously on the cliff of a precipice, but we are not in there yet. There is always a chance to pull back, to reassess and reappraise issues. And I think the time to do that is just now. So I believe that if we as party men were serious about our intentions to bring good to our nation, to put forward an alternative platform for Nigerians to take and use, you know, and vote for in the next election, I think the time to pull back is just now. It might, I mean, before it gets too late. So I believe the party can always rediscover itself, reassess itself, and reconstruct its next actions.
Well, Mr. Umar, I'm just curious for you. I mean, this talk about certain powerful individuals, we heard that play out in the controversy that trailed Mr. Secondus's leadership, saying certain individuals, strong individuals in the party want him out, they're wielding undue influence and all that. Is that still something that you sense in the party, that certain individuals wield undue influence over the party's structure?
You see, one of the major problems our party has is that we follow processes that are unconstitutional. For instance, there is nowhere in our constitution that agrees with consensus. So if anybody goes to court now to challenge the consensus arrangement, it will be overturned. The court will, because our party always has given room for election. Nowhere in the constitution that says consensus is accepted. So these are time bombs for the party. Now, if you go to that level, if you are talking about the individuals, the powerful individuals, now, Olagunso Oyinlola was a governor of Osun State, and he was a national secretary of the party before, and he was removed, and he went to court, and now he is contesting again, and there was no sanction against him. So you see double standards. These are all things that the party people will continuously look at and say, okay, well, let us wait and see where they are taking the party to. And at the end of the day, when the ordinary member of all the members of the party rebel, it will not be good for the party. So just like what he said, you know, the storms are gathering, but it will rain. But it has to, before it rains, we better, you know, take care of, you know, our surroundings, because either the rain can be destructive, or the rains can be.
You know, ironically, Mr. Umar, the PDP has as its logo an umbrella. So, I mean, when you talk about the rain, perhaps you're referencing the fact that members need to get their umbrella or maybe join it into a bigger tent. But I know that this talk about internal party mechanism would always come up. And if you could just shed a light on that quickly, what exactly does internal party mechanism mean in terms of conflict resolution? Because it would seem it means different things to different people. They say, I mean, you didn't exhaust internal party mechanism. And the person says, well, I did. So what's the process for this internal party mechanism, Mr. Umar?
The internal party mechanisms is that if you have the party constitution has spelled out how every action of yours can be taken. Now, if you have an issue from the ward level, and somebody has been wronged or somebody has been dealt with at the ward level, he has 14 days within which to appeal to the local government level. The local government level is supposed to constitute a committee to look at it, and that committee is comprises of 7 members, one of whom must be a legal practitioner. Now, that committee will look at it and then give its verdict. If the man is still not satisfied, he will still go to the state and say, I am not satisfied with this because it goes contrary to our party constitution, and he cites. And if the state still says, the state sets up a committee and says still that he has been found guilty, he will still now go to the zonal. The zonal committee will now look at it, and then finally, he will come to the National Working Committee. So once the National Working Committee decides and he is not satisfied, he has exhausted all the laid down procedures in the party, then he can now go to court and say, these things have been taken.
But at the end of the day, must Prince Uche Secondus complete his tenure? Can't he sacrifice a couple of months in the interest of the party?
That is his own personal decision. It is not for me or for any other person to take. It is his own personal decision. If his decision is that he wants to complete his tenure because he does not want to be seen as a chairman who was forcefully removed and unjustly too, and he wants to ensure that he comes back, completes his tenure, and then leaves.
He won't be the first to have been removed, will he?
Well, all the other ones were removed when we had government. And they were not even removed, they resigned. There is no chairman that we had that did not resign. If you take Solomon La,
they would not have been happy to resign. But because if the overarching members or system,
I think we should begin to respect our own laws and constitution.
Exactly.
Honestly, I think that should be the condition.
Where did the derogation of the processes? Where and when did it start? Because I would recall, and I'm sure you gentlemen would also recall, that in previous republics, the party chairmen were literally the soul of the party, the philosophy of the party anywhere they governed. So what happened? At what point did we stop respecting the authority of the party when that party is in governance?
Yes, let me tell you, till date, Nigeria does not have an enduring political culture. You know, what we have happening in Nigeria today is that people are just living each day as it comes, and there is no how a political party can develop under such conditions. In the days of the UPN and MPN, we had practicing politicians that had due respect for themselves and the institutions of the political parties they manage. Unfortunately for our country, when we come into let me even go beyond that. Unfortunately for our country, when Ibrahim Babangida began his political process, he first of all destroyed the legacies of the old political party structures by decreeing into existence 2 major political parties, 2 parties only. And he now barred a category of people from partaking in politics then. What that did to the system was to deny the system of heritage, of political culture, and the learning process. The socialization was completely awry. In our country today, then in the days of the old political parties, criminals don't get near the system. We have criminals in government now. We have criminals in the National Assembly. People that believe that because they had, or rather, people who had access to field.
Is that on perhaps police reports or some sort of documentation?
No,
the National Assembly?
Look. Chamberlain, in every community knows is criminals. Every community know they are criminals.
Deputy IGP.
Please, will you please allow me, sir?
Yes.
Every community knows. Thank you. Every community know the criminals, the people, the outlaws within their system. And our system has been so bastardized to a level that if a criminal have access to money and could buy himself his way out on election day, he gets elected. It is that bad. But ordinarily, the process of a political party should have checkmated such a person from getting nominated for an election. Our nation is now moving forward today because there's no patriotism in the class of those that are governing this nation, essentially.
But if they are in the National Assembly, as you say, it means that we all have questions to answer because, quote unquote, they were elected into offices.
I just said so.
He didn't say the election was not valid.
I just said so.
But you know,
No, is that political parties?
yeah, no, he's talking
You can't
about
checkmate that.
Yeah, no, what he's trying to say is not that the election was not valid, but that we have criminals. What he is still insisting that if political parties were political parties as they were,
As they should be,
they should be, those people cannot be there because the political parties will have fished them out and say,
no, you are not working for the system.
You are not working for the system. New Aliu, a former commissioner of DIG, when he was a senator, he said when he came into the Senate, he saw some people that he arrested for
and locked up
for 419 and so, and they were senators like him.
So at the end of the day now, the convention is going to hold. And so far they've said, look, if anybody is aggrieved, appear before the committee. Isn't that giving room to say, well, when they do appear, if that committee finds that some certain errors have been made, as you may have alluded to, it will be redressed?
Well, it is part of the system. Of course, when the screening committee gave its report and made it public, it is not final. So there is an appeal committee. Now, it is the duty of the appeal committee to do right and to do just as it should be. Now, they should look at the merits of the matter and then correct if any anomaly as they find it. And if there is no any anomaly and they believe that the screening committee in its own report had already justified its own decision, with concrete facts, then it can go ahead to uphold it.
But gentlemen, shouldn't we also factor in the facts which you see sometimes from tribunals up onto Supreme Court in certain cases? You see minority judgment and majority judgment. So must it always go in a particular way for everybody to say, well, even elections, they tell you there has to be substantial compliance?
You see the difference between the legal, the one from the legal perspective and the party perspective is that while the legal perspective looks at critical legal issues, the one of the party looks at interest.
Yeah, but the principle is
even arising from that question.
Yeah.
To further establish the fact that our system is in a horrid state. You see, I read political science, for God's sake. The essence of a franchise, when you exercise franchise, is for you to elect, for the people to elect who they want to be governor, who they want to be president. But in today's Nigeria, to a certain extent, and this is absolutely terrible, the courts have taken over that right of the people to pronounce some people as governors.
By whose choice?
By whose choice, you ask me?
Yes.
By the choice of the judiciary itself, because when you do an arbitration...
But the judiciary is not going to... My apologies.
The
judiciary is not going to initiate any process.
Well, you can say that. You can say that people...
So it goes back to the issue he raised about interests. So if somebody's interest is not being favored, so to speak, the person wants to cut corners, I mean, so to speak.
And the system allows such corners to be successfully cut. And
so who is supposed to... My apologies. I'm sorry. So that we can make it functional and practical. Who is supposed to establish that system that will not allow such a thing to happen? Isn't it the same political class?
Well, again, let me say that there's a lot of indiscipline in our nation. And it is even prevalent in the political class. And even the judiciary itself cannot be cleaned out. For God's sake, let us look at the
Why?
Let us look at the issue of Imo State, for instance. When that election was conducted, the man that is sitting as governor today, in the result sheet of INEC, was said to have been number 4 on the result sheet. People went to court. And somehow, Somehow, I don't know the evidences that were tendered before the court. I don't know how the court came about it, but I know one fact that would have been placed before that court is that the resource of the election, this person was number 4. And somehow the court process began. Number one was flunked, number 2 failed, number 3 was no longer existent, and number 4 suddenly became number 1. The crisis that Imo State government went through, Imo State went through, and possibly still going through, is largely engineered by that development. What I'm saying is that the judiciary itself will do this system a lot of good by not taking over and destroying the franchise of the people because somebody wants it to be done. Our nation deserves the very best it can get in every situation, and we as citizens too must not be self-centered in all we do. We should begin to look beyond our personal immediate gains and begin to see how our actions will be so beneficial to the system at the end of the day.
And adding more to what he has said.
In conclusion, yeah.
Yeah. Taking a holistic look at it, you will discover that even the ordinary man on the street in Imo State is not agreeing with that judgment. That is why up to this moment, they may not know the facts of the matter, but up to this moment, they believe that the governor is a Supreme Court governor. They do not accord him the fact that this is the person we actually voted for. We didn't vote for this man, but the Supreme Court gave him. How it was pleaded, how the evidences were smuggled into the court and so forth, well, it's immaterial to them. What is material is that the man is not their choice. So how come he becomes governor? That is what we are talking about, the judiciary. Of course, we know that the judiciary has a system. The judiciary is not a Father Christmas. If you don't ask for something, they don't give you. But of course, the judiciary can also manipulate how issues can be brought before it so that they can give it to you. So what we are saying in essence is that the judiciary should be steadfast.
All right, and Mr. Sanni Umar is a former spokesperson for the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. We've also had Mr. Ayo Fadaka, who is a former Zonal Secretary Southwest of the PDP. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on today.
You're welcome.
My pleasure.
We will be back in a moment to turn attention to an equally important matter. It has to do with fixing the economy. Don't go away.